Hello, veteran, and welcome. If you're watching this video, it's all about a recent approved claim for sleep apnea. So I was working with a veteran who was around 79% VA math, and he was wanting to put in a claim for sleep apnea. So he was obviously 79% VA math, getting paid at 80, and needed to, in order to get paid at 90%, you got to get over that 85% hump. So he then, so his situation is that he actually had two sleep apnea studies done. One, personally, he had a sleep study done privately and through a private medical insurance. And then he also had one done through the VA. So let me share with you his situation. And the reason why I want to emphasize his situation is because every veteran's situation is different. That's why the name of my channel is called Situation Dictates, because every veteran's situation is different. He is a veteran of the Afghanistan War and Iraq, and he was also an 88 Mike, which basically was a vehicle driver, so forth. So let me share with you his situation. So he was recently awarded 50% for sleep apnea. And let's see, and this is August 2025. Now, as I mentioned previously, is that he actually had two sleep studies. And what was remarkable about them is that those two sleep studies basically had the same exact data. You know, the oxygen levels, the time he was sleeping, the REM sleep, all these different data that they look at. And it's a lot of data. So mirrored each other. They were basically the same data information. So what did he come out with? Both diagnosed him with severe sleep apnea. Okay, both studies, and that's why it was really interesting to see how both of them had the same exact data, right? The same as exact results, basically. So what are some other things that he had? Now we put sleep apnea secondary to PTSD. So it was a secondary condition, secondary to PTSD. And so that's another thing, right? And I want to share some things with you. So one of the things that we did for him, right? So first off, it was secondary to PTSD. His wife, who he had been with, he's been with for the last 7 years. So a wife, we did a wife statement. Also, we submitted his MOS and his 2 deployments, right, in his personal statement. We already had this, the 2 sleep study results. So 2 sleep study results and sleep medication. Right. Now, the one thing that's really interesting when it comes to sleep apnea is that there's mild, moderate, and severe. And it's not one of those things where somebody goes from not having sleep apnea to going to severe sleep apnea. Oftentimes, it's a progression. And so for him to have sleep apnea or severe sleep apnea, he has been dealing with this for quite some time. One of the things that I think was very important was his wife's statement, indicating that he would wake up gasping for air. He would often be very fatigued and tired throughout the day, and they went into obviously some personal issues about their relationship and so forth. And so that was important. His deployment, his MOS specifically. And not only that, we really emphasized, just to add more substance to the claim, really, did it help in particular? We're not sure. But the exposures that he had from his MOS, the fuel, the fumes, the fuels, the different chemicals. So, obviously the fuels, the fumes, right? Diesel fumes, these sorts of things that, have shown to cause some issues with breathing. But with having his MOS, and his MOS was an 88 mic. 88 mic. 2 sleep study results and sleep medication. Now, here's an important thing, that when he was awarded 50%, he had not been using a CPAP machine. He hadn't been using a CPAP machine. So this is his situation. He was PTSD, already service-connected PTSD. He had a wife statement. We put in information about, and the other thing, which is very important, and there's 2 things to this, is he had a doctor letter, which you will often hear in videos on this topic, using as a nexus letter. And a nexus, all that means is a connection. All right, that's all that means, is that a nexus, there is a connection. And one thing that's very important is that when you submit a claim and you provide this sort of information, a doctor's letter, one of the things that I provided to the doctor, as well as him doing his own research, is that we provided medical literature. Medical literature, basically medical research, medical literature and research, basically research, right? And this was very important because, well, one, he was approved. And he was approved, and if he hadn't been approved, we would have looked for indications if they took that letter, that professional statement and medical literature research. Now, there have been some people, some veterans, who have said, I had a nexus letter and I had medical literature. And that's an excellent point. And here's the thing. What might have been missed, let me add another thing here. So this is what happens is, and this is why it's so important to be working with somebody who knows what to look for, knows what they're doing, is that in a decision letter, it will state, right? In a decision letter, it will state evidence, right? Evidence received. And oftentimes it'll be a long list of things, depending on how many claims. But they will list evidence that they have and they receive. And that's why it's really important to look at that evidence section. However, there's another section where it states what they used to make their decision. You want to see that, you might see that you included a doctor's letter or a nexus in your claim, and you may see it in the evidence section. You may see it, you may see all your evidence, you may see all evidence, all statements, medical records. You will see all of this in this section. And people will often look at it and be like, okay, they used that information to make a decision. But what often happens is they'll and I'll show you an example where they don't use the evidence to make their decision. And this is why it's so important, why it is very important to not only read the decision letter, because even if you win the decision, it also states why they didn't give you the next percentage up. So if you receive 10% for something, they're going to state why you didn't get the 20%. And I'll share a quick example with you right here. When a veteran put in for radiculopathy on both legs, right, bilateral, meaning both legs, both sides, he immediately noticed when he received, for the first time he put in for radiculopathy, he was awarded 10% for each leg. When he submitted his initial claim, he didn't have MRI scans of his back. He already had diagnosis, but not an MRI. He had a diagnosis of radiculopathy, he had the issues of radiculopathy, and he was awarded 10%. However, during that time of submitting the claim and a decision, those MRIs had taken place. So when he received the decision and awarded 10% for bilateral, on there it also stated why he didn't receive 20%. And the reason why he didn't have 20% or receive 20% is because there was no issues with nerves, right? So what happened is that after he received those MRI results showing nerve issues, the potential of some contact with nerves, he saw that it said nothing dealing with nerves for the reason why he didn't receive 20%. So he immediately submitted another claim or supplemental claim for the increase for radiculopathy, meaning it should be higher based off of the MRI scans that are now showing issues with nerves. And he was immediately, less than a month, was awarded 20% for radiculopathy bilateral. So that's why it's so important to not only read it when you were awarded it, receive the award, the approval, and not just for the denials. So this is why so what they use to make the decision, right? But why? And so it's very important. Let me erase this here. So what they use to make their decision, that's the most important part. So what they used to make their decision, that is vital to look at for any sort of just a second here. I want to bold that. So you've got to make sure that you're looking at both, not only the evidence section, but also what they used to make their decision. So he was then awarded 50% for sleep apnea. And let's go back here. And if for some reason he was denied, it's going to say. So no matter if a veteran is awarded approval or denial, the VA has to state what they used and why they're making their decision. And this is why it's so important to look at that decision letter, whether you win it or not. You've got to look at that letter, because then now, hey, if things get worse, you know what will get you to that next level. And reading those decision letters are what's going to help you in making that. So once again, this veteran was approved. And for 50% in August, just last month, for 50%, he had not been using, he hadn't started using a CPAP machine. Now, here's the thing, and this is kind of my health background, right? I have a master's degree in public health, and when it comes to sleep apnea, it's unfortunate when veterans are suffering from sleep apnea. And I just want to really encourage, if you are a veteran who has sleep apnea, whether it's service connected or not, I want to strongly encourage you to do everything you possibly can to use the CPAP machine. I have two friends right now. One, in fact, the veteran that I helped get 50%, he started using the CPAP machine and noticed a difference, right? Sleep apnea is when there's things going on that are not allowing oftentimes enough oxygen or a good amount of oxygen going to the brain. Now, my friend, he's diagnosed with severe sleep apnea. And this means that more than likely, he has been suffering from sleep apnea for many years. Now, imagine this. Every night for, let's just say, I'm certain it's been at least 5 years, if not more, but let's just make it simple. 5 years. 365 days times 5. I don't know what that is. But can you imagine, your brain needs oxygen. And when you are not getting that oxygen to your brain for many years, it's going to have an impact in your health and wellness, your daily life, your relationships, your friendships, your career, your decisions on an everyday basis. Sleep is so vitally important that I want to encourage you to utilize the CPAP machine. I have another friend who he just struggles. He has like a panic attack putting on the mask for the CPAP machine. And I'm, as much as I can, really encouraging him. He's in his mid 40s, and he can live another 35, 40 years. And he also has been diagnosed with severe sleep apnea and with issues of getting enough oxygen to his brain. And he's a new father. I think his child is maybe 2-3 years old. 30 something more years, this without getting good amount of oxygen to the brain is going to have an impact in the quality of his life. So I just want to strongly encourage you to whatever may help you, or whatever, if you are struggling, to find what may help you in utilizing the mask, because this is we only have one brain. You only have one brain, and it's the most important organ in our body. And just imagine, I like to think about life where, hey, I hope for the longest time possible that I'm able to feed myself, clean myself, and wipe myself. And you need your brain. You need coordination. You need the ability to walk and move and these sorts of things. And when your brain is impacted and can be impacted, you can be looking forward. You could be looking to a life that where you may not have those abilities, right? To feed yourself, clean yourself, and wipe yourself. So all my fellow brothers and sisters out there struggling with sleep apnea, I strongly encourage you to find something that can help you to utilize the CPAP machine on a daily basis so that you are getting the amount of oxygen you need for your brain to work optimally and so that you can have a wonderful quality of life. All right. So there's just my bachelor's degree and master's degree in health. And so I think about these things. And so there you have it. I hope, somehow just encourage you. Perhaps if you are a spouse of a veteran, hey, send them this message because I understand my friend is struggling. He wants to use it. He has a young son. He wants to be around for his son. And this is a serious illness to where you're not getting enough oxygen to the brain. You're not breathing well. And when anything impacts your sleep quality, it will impact the quality of your life. So, all right. Once again, real quick, let me just go over this once again. So sleep apnea, 50%. He had 2 sleep studies. He is secondary to PTSD. It was very important, a wife statement, right? One thing that I did want to include in his claim that we did not was, and obviously he was awarded 50%, but one thing that I would have liked for him to have had. So if you're watching this and you want to put in a good claim, and maybe perhaps you have a couple deployments or one or more deployments, one thing that I would have liked to have had in his case is a statement from a sibling or parent. And what would this be? Stating that no one else, I forget exactly what it was that we couldn't add a statement to his. I think we had to get in intent to file, something to where he was okay with just submitting this information. He felt, and it was his decision. He felt good with his wife's statement because they've been together over 7 years. So there's 7 years of history, his deployments, 2 sleep studies, his sleep medication, and then the doctor note. And I think he was kind of in a rush to want to get it through, but I also felt that we had enough information. But kind of if you're in this situation, get a statement from a sibling or parent stating that there is no family history of sleep apnea, right? So get a statement from a sibling or parent, grandparent, someone in the family who can state, hey, there is no one else in the family who suffers from these sorts of things. So just something that I would have added to his claim. Obviously, he won without this, but just something for you, if you are watching this, to be aware that this is something that I would have encouraged him to add. So once again, hey, if you've gotten something out of this, please share it with other veterans. And then also, I shared a video about not sharing any percentage of your award to any organization who is willing to submit your claims. And then once you're awarded, I understand the pros of it. There's no money up front. And basically, we don't win if you don't win type of deal thing. But once I heard that a friend of mine paid over $6,000, and knowing that's a lot of money that could have been in his pocket. Had I known this was what he was trying to do to submit these claims, he's a combat Iraq veteran, and he should never, $6,000, he should never. So check out that video. And also, once again, if you learned anything, please share. And then also would love to hear your comments as well. All right. Until next time, you take it easy and take care.